The massive Vorthak fleet hung in space like a dark cloud of death. Hive Commander Zekthor stood in the organic command chamber of his flagship, studying the tactical display with his compound eyes. 200 bioships formed perfect attack formations, ready to consume another helpless Confederation world. "The prey species gather their ships as always," reported one of his sub-commanders through the hive mind link. "Same energy signatures, same weak defensive positions." Zekthor's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "Begin the feeding. Harvest their biomatter for the hive." But as the Vorthak fleet moved forward, something was different. Mixed in with the familiar Confederation ships were vessels of unknown design. They were smaller than Vorthak bioships, but they looked deadly in a way that made Zekthor's combat instincts twitch with unease. On the bridge of the UES Iron Thunder, Captain Jiho Kim watched the approaching enemy fleet. Beside him stood Colonel Minho Kang, a special operations leader who had arrived with the latest reinforcement ships. Minho was a quiet man who smiled rarely but fought with deadly precision. 200 ships, reported Commander Hyun Lee from the tactical station, all bioorganic construction. No signs of traditional armor or shielding. "Perfect," Minho said quietly. "Bioarmor is tough against energy weapons, but it's still organic matter. Kinetic weapons will tear through it like tissue paper." Jiho nodded and opened the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Iron Thunder. Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their large ships first, then work your way down. Remember, these things have never fought kinetic weapons before. Make every shot count." The human fleet was much smaller than the Vorthak force, but what they lacked in numbers, they made up for in firepower and tactics. As the two fleets closed on each other, the humans opened fire first. Railgun rounds streaked across space at incredible speeds. The Vorthak had no experience with such weapons and made no attempt to dodge or defend against them. The first salvo punched through bioarmor and deep into ship cores. Explosions bloomed across the Vorthak formation. "Impossible," Zekthor hissed through the hive mind. "What manner of weapons are these?" His science drones quickly analyzed the attack. "Solid projectiles, Hive Commander. Moving at extreme velocity. Our bioarmor cannot deflect them." "Then adapt," Zekthor commanded. "Thicken the armor. Change formation." But the humans were not finished. Missile salvos followed the railgun attacks. Each missile carried a small nuclear warhead designed for space combat. When they exploded against Vorthak hulls, they created brief suns that vaporized bioarmor and everything beneath it. In less than 20 minutes, the Vorthak lost over 60 ships. The survivors retreated in panic, something that had never happened in 50 years of conquest. Zekthor stared at the tactical display in shock. What are these creatures? What species fights with such brutality? The question was answered when human Marines boarded one of the damaged Vorthak ships that could not retreat. Colonel Minho led the boarding party personally, along with a squad of heavily armed soldiers. The inside of the Vorthak ship was like being inside a living creature. The walls pulsed with organic rhythms and the air was thick with strange scents. But the human soldiers moved through it efficiently, their weapons ready. They found the Vorthak crew in the ship's nerve center. The aliens were insect-like creatures with hard shells and multiple limbs. They hissed and clicked at the humans but did not attack. They seemed to be in shock. "Secure the area," Minho ordered. "Set up the translation equipment. We need to learn more about these things." Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Yuna Seo was working with Confederation scientists to understand Vorthak technology. She was a brilliant woman who could make any machine work better than its designers had intended. "Their ships are basically giant living creatures," she explained to a group of amazed alien engineers, "but they're still machines at heart. We can disable them by targeting their nerve clusters just like shooting a brain." The Confederation engineers were horrified and fascinated at the same time. They had spent years trying to understand Vorthak technology without success, and this human woman had figured it out in days. "But how do you know where to shoot?" asked one of them. Yuna smiled grimly. "Experience. Humans have been killing living things for millions of years. We know where the weak spots are." As word of the victory spread through Confederation space, reactions were mixed. Some species celebrated, happy to finally see the Vorthak defeated. Others worried about what it meant to have such violent allies. Dr. Yoonji Choi found herself in the middle of these debates. She spent her time traveling between different Confederation worlds, trying to help both sides understand each other. "Your human friends are very effective warriors," said Elder Kithara, one of the ancient Zarian species who had built the summoning chamber. But we fear they may be too effective. What do you mean? Dr. Choi asked. We summoned guardian spirits to protect us, the old alien explained. But guardians should protect without becoming the thing they fight against. Your people kill so easily. What happens when they decide we are the enemy? It was a question that Dr. Choi had been asking herself. She had studied human history and knew that her species was capable of terrible things, but she had also seen humans sacrifice themselves to protect strangers. Elder Cathera, she said carefully, I understand your fear, but consider this. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We could have conquered your entire confederation in weeks if that was our goal. Instead, we ask permission to build bases on your worlds. We train your people to defend themselves. We share our technology freely. But for how long? The elder asked. What happens when this war is over? The question became more urgent as human influence spread through Confederation space. Human advisors worked with alien military commanders, teaching them tactics they had never imagined. Human engineers upgraded Confederation ships with kinetic weapons and better armor. Human doctors shared medical knowledge that saved millions of lives. Some Confederation species embraced these changes enthusiastically. Others resisted, preferring their peaceful ways. The tensions created new problems that no one had expected. Admiral Soman Park found herself dealing with these political issues as much as military ones. She established regular meetings with Confederation leaders, trying to address their concerns while preparing for the next Vorthak attack. We are not here to change your societies, she assured them during one particularly difficult session. We are here to give you the chance to survive and grow. What you do with that chance is up to you. But change was already happening. Young aliens from peaceful species volunteered to serve on human ships, learning about warfare and violence in ways that horrified their elders. Some Confederation worlds began building their own kinetic weapons. Despite protests from pacifist groups, the most dramatic change came when Captain Narration, commander of an experimental hybrid warship, worked with Confederation engineers to create the first joint-designed vessel. It combined human weapons and tactics with alien technology and philosophy. This ship represents our future together, Nari announced at the launch ceremony. Not human, not alien, but something new. Something that can protect what is good while fighting what is evil. The hybrid ship, named the UCS Harmony, became a symbol of cooperation between humans and aliens, but it also became a target for those on both sides who opposed the alliance. As reports came in of massive Vorthak reinforcements gathering for a counterattack, everyone knew that the real test was still ahead. The Vorthak overmind had learned about human weapons and tactics. Now it was preparing a response that would either crush the alliance or be crushed by it. The galaxy held its breath and waited for the storm to break. 3 days after the first battle, Captain Jiho Kim found himself sitting across from the strangest collection of beings he had ever seen. The meeting was taking place aboard his flagship, the UES Iron Thunder, in the main conference room. The aliens had requested this meeting through a series of increasingly frantic transmissions. The first alien to speak looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and large black eyes. It introduced itself as Ambassador Thylan Moore. Next to him sat a creature that looked like a walking tree with multiple arms. The third alien resembled a giant butterfly with a translator device strapped to its chest. We are so grateful that you answered our call, Thylan said through his own translator. The ancient ritual worked. You are the guardian spirits we summoned. Jiho looked confused. Guardian spirits? I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake. We're not spirits. We're humans from Earth. We were pulled here by some kind of space anomaly. The butterfly alien's wings fluttered rapidly. Space anomaly? But the summoning chamber on Zarion showed us that you came from the ritual. You appeared exactly when we called for help. Dr. Yoonji Choi, who was serving as the human xenobiologist and first contact specialist, leaned forward. She was a small woman with kind eyes and patience that seemed endless. Perhaps we could start with some basic information, she suggested. Can you tell us about this war you're fighting? Thylan activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with large sections colored in red. The Vorthak Empire has been expanding for 50 years. They consume entire worlds, stripping them of all life. We have tried to stop them, but our weapons are useless against their bioarmor. Commander Hyun Lee, Jiho's tactical officer, studied the display. What kind of weapons do you use? Energy-based systems, replied the tree-like alien. Plasma beams, photon torpedoes, quantum disruptors. All standard galactic technology. Hyun and Jiho exchanged glances. You don't use kinetic weapons? Hyun asked. Solid projectiles? The aliens looked puzzled. Kinetic weapons? Thailand repeated. You mean like throwing rocks? That is very primitive technology. No civilized species has used such methods for thousands of years. This time it was the humans' turn to look puzzled. Primitive, Jiho said. Our kinetic weapons can punch through almost any armor. They're much more effective than energy weapons in most situations. The butterfly alien's translator crackled as it spoke. But kinetic weapons cause so much damage. They destroy everything they hit. Energy weapons can be adjusted to stun or disable without killing. Dr. Choi suddenly understood. You try to avoid killing your enemies, she said slowly. Of course, Thailand replied as if it was obvious. All life is precious. Even the Vorthak, though they are misguided. We seek to defend ourselves and perhaps capture their ships so we can study them and find a way to make peace. The conference room fell silent. The humans stared at the aliens with expressions of disbelief. Finally, Jiho spoke. Ambassador Thailand, how many of your worlds have been destroyed while you were trying to avoid killing the Vorthak? 237 systems, Thailand answered quietly. Billions of our people have died, and you're still trying not to hurt the attackers. What else can we do? Violence only creates more violence. We must find a peaceful solution. General Wanho Jung, who had been listening quietly from the back of the room, stepped forward. He was a large man with scars on his hands from years of combat. Ambassador, with respect, your people are being exterminated while you look for peaceful solutions. Sometimes violence is necessary to protect innocent lives. The tree alien's branches rustled with what might have been distress. But if we become violent, how are we different from the Vorthak? Because you're fighting to protect your families, General Jung replied. They're fighting to consume everything. That's a big difference. Over the following weeks, more meetings took place as both sides tried to understand each other. The humans set up temporary bases on several Confederation worlds, always asking permission first and trying to be respectful guests. Dr. Choi spent most of her time studying the different alien species. What she found amazed her. Each species in the Confederation had evolved on worlds with very little danger. No predators, no natural disasters, no resource competition. They had developed incredible technology and art, but they had never learned to fight. It's like a galaxy full of sheep trying to fight wolves, she explained to Admiral Salman Park during one of their regular communication calls. Park was commanding the human fleet from her flagship, the UES Thunderbolt. And now we're the sheepdogs, Admiral Park replied. She was a serious woman, who took her responsibilities very seriously. The question is, can we teach sheep to fight wolves without turning them into wolves themselves? The answer to that question came sooner than expected. Vorthak scout ships began probing the systems where human ships were stationed. The first real test came when 3 Vorthak destroyers attacked a Confederation colony world called Kepler's Garden. Captain Daeon O was commanding a small human patrol consisting of 2 frigates and a destroyer. When the distress call came from Kepler's Garden, she was the closest human commander. All ships, prepare for combat, Daeon ordered. Remember, these aliens have never seen kinetic weapons before. Use that advantage. The Vorthak ships were massive and covered in the same bioarmor that had made them nearly invulnerable to energy weapons. They moved through space like living creatures, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms. Daeon's ships opened fire from long range. Kinetic rounds traveled at a significant fraction of light speed, giving the Vorthak no time to react. The first salvo punched through the bioarmor like it was paper. The second salvo penetrated deep into the ship's interiors. 2 of the Vorthak ships exploded immediately. The third tried to retreat, but human missiles caught it before it could escape. The entire battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The Confederation ships that had been defending the colony watched in amazement. They had been fighting the same type of Vorthak ships for years, barely managing to drive them off. The humans had destroyed 3 of them in minutes, but the victory came with complications. Video recordings of the battle spread throughout Confederation space. Some species were amazed and grateful. Others were horrified by the casual efficiency of human violence. Protests began on several worlds. Some Confederation citizens worried that they had traded one set of conquerors for another. Others argued that the humans were their only hope for survival. Ambassador Seok Han, who had arrived with the second wave of human ships, found himself trying to calm these fears. He was an elderly diplomat with decades of experience in difficult negotiations. "We are not here to conquer you," he assured a gathering of Confederation leaders. "We are here because your summoning ritual brought us here, and we cannot stand by while innocents are killed." "But your methods are so violent," protested a representative from the peaceful vegan species. "You destroy everything in your path." "We destroy those who would destroy you," Seok replied gently. "There's a difference between violence for conquest and violence for protection." The debate continued, but it became less important as more Vorthak fleets approached Confederation space. Ready or not, the galaxy was about to see what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. The humans were about to show the Vorthak why Earth was considered a death world, and why its children were born warriors. Deep in the heart of Vorthak space, the Overmind pulsed with rage and calculation. It was a creature beyond imagination. Part machine, part biology, part something else entirely. For 50 years it had directed the conquest of the galaxy with perfect success. Now for the first time it faced defeat. "Show me the recordings again," the Overmind commanded through the hive mind network. Across thousands of bioships, tactical displays showed the same images. Human vessels firing solid projectiles that tore through Vorthak armor like it was nothing. Nuclear explosions that vaporized entire ships. Most disturbing of all, human soldiers boarding Vorthak vessels and killing crews with personal weapons. "Analysis," the Overmind demanded. The collective consciousness of 1,000,000 Vorthak drones processed the data. The humans use kinetic weapons exclusively. They show no mercy to captured enemies. They adapt to new situations within minutes. Conclusion: they are a warrior species from a high-gravity death world. The Overmind's thoughts turned dark. In all its conquests, it had never faced a true death world species. Such species were rare and usually destroyed themselves before reaching space. But sometimes, very rarely, they survived and became something terrible. "Begin adaptive evolution protocols," the Overmind ordered. "Develop countermeasures to kinetic weapons. Increase bioarmor density by 300%. Prepare the planet-killer weapons." Meanwhile, Admiral Taiho Lim was establishing the Human Command Center on the Confederation capital world of Althos Prime. He was a strategic genius who had planned Earth's most successful military campaigns. Now he faced his greatest challenge: coordinating a galactic war. "Intelligence reports show massive Vorthak fleet movements," reported Subcommander Kyung Shin, his intelligence officer. "They're pulling ships from across their empire. Best estimate is over 2,000 vessels gathering for a major offensive." Admiral Lim studied the holographic battle map floating above the command table. Red dots showed Vorthak positions. Blue dots showed human and Confederation forces. The numbers did not look good. 2,000 ships, he mused. "They're planning to end this war with one massive attack." "Sir," Dr. Isul Nam spoke up from her position at the psychological warfare station. "I may have found something useful in our analysis of captured Vorthak communications." Dr. Nam was a specialist in understanding enemy thinking. She had spent weeks studying Vorthak behavior patterns and hive mind communications. What she had discovered was disturbing but potentially very useful. "The Vorthak hive mind is incredibly efficient," she explained. "But that efficiency is also a weakness. They share all thoughts and emotions instantly across their entire species. If we can cause enough psychological trauma to a significant number of them, the shock will spread through their entire network." Admiral Lim leaned forward with interest. "What kind of trauma?" "Fear," Dr. Nam said simply. "The Vorthak have been the dominant predators in this galaxy for 50 years. They have never experienced true fear. If we can make them afraid, really afraid, it could paralyze their entire empire." The plan that emerged from this insight was called Operation Thunderstrike. Instead of meeting the Vorthak fleet in direct battle, human forces would strike at multiple Vorthak worlds simultaneously. The attacks would be designed not just to destroy targets, but to create maximum psychological impact. Colonel Minho Kang led the first phase. His special operations teams infiltrated 12 different Vorthak worlds using captured bioships. Once in position, they began systematic attacks on hive mind relay stations. "Remember," Minho told his teams over encrypted communications, "we're not just destroying equipment. We're sending a message. The Vorthak need to learn that nowhere is safe from human soldiers." The attacks began at exactly the same time across all 12 worlds. Human soldiers emerged from hiding and struck at the heart of Vorthak communications networks. Bioorganic towers that had stood for decades were reduced to rubble in minutes. But the most effective part of the plan was what happened next. Instead of retreating, the human teams remained on the Vorthak worlds, conducting guerrilla warfare against the occupying forces. For the first time in their history, the Vorthak found enemies inside their own territory. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Fear spread through the hive mind like a virus. Vorthak drones that had never known doubt suddenly questioned their invincibility. The certainty that had driven their conquests began to crumble. Admiral Park took advantage of this confusion to launch the second phase of the operation. Human fleets struck at Vorthak supply lines, cutting off resources to their gathering armada. The attacks were surgical and precise, designed to cripple without completely destroying. "We want them angry and afraid," she explained to her fleet commanders. "Angry enemies make mistakes. Afraid enemies hesitate. Combined together, those weaknesses will give us the advantage we need." But the Vorthak were adapting faster than expected. The Overmind had learned from its defeats and was implementing countermeasures. New bioarmor designs could deflect some kinetic weapons. Hive mind protocols were modified to limit the spread of fear through the network. Most dangerously, the Vorthak began developing weapons specifically designed to kill humans. Bioorganic viruses that targeted human DNA. Toxic gases that could penetrate human armor. Mind control parasites that could turn human soldiers against each other. The first test of these new weapons came when Captain Nari Yoon's hybrid ship, the UCS Harmony, encountered a modified Vorthak cruiser near the contested system of Kepler's Edge. "Unknown bioweapon detected," reported her tactical officer. "It's some kind of gas weapon targeting our life support systems." Nari made a quick decision. All human crew to sealed armor. Alien crew to emergency shelters. Prepare for biocontamination protocols. The battle that followed was unlike anything seen before in the war. The Vorthak ship released clouds of toxic gas designed to kill humans specifically. In response, the Harmony fired specially designed kinetic rounds that delivered human-made toxins into the enemy ship. It became a battle of competing death technologies, each side trying to kill the other with increasingly sophisticated weapons. When the Harmony finally emerged victorious, both crews were shaken by the experience. "This is what we've created," Dr. Choi said to Admiral Lim after reviewing the battle reports. "An arms race between species trying to find the most efficient ways to kill each other." "It was always going to come to this," Admiral Lim replied grimly. "The Vorthak were never going to surrender just because we won a few battles. They're fighting for their empire. We're fighting for the survival of every peaceful species in the galaxy." The moral complexity of the situation became clear when Sub-Commander Kyung's intelligence teams discovered something unexpected in captured Vorthak databases. The Vorthak Empire was not just conquering for expansion or resources. They were fleeing from something. Analysis of their deep space sensors shows massive energy signatures beyond their territory, Kyung reported. "Something is coming toward the galaxy from dark space, something that scares the Vorthak more than we do." This revelation changed everything. The humans and Confederation were not just fighting to stop the Vorthak conquest. They were fighting to prepare the galaxy for an even greater threat. As the largest Vorthak fleet in history gathered for its final assault on Confederation space, Admiral Lim made a difficult decision. Instead of trying to destroy the Vorthak completely, he would offer them a choice: join the alliance against the greater threat, or be destroyed by it. The message was sent through captured communication channels directly to the Overmind itself. It was simple and direct, in the way that humans preferred to communicate. "We know about the threat coming from dark space. We know you're running from it. Stop fighting us and start fighting with us. Together we might survive what's coming. Apart we'll all die." The Overmind's response would determine the fate of the galaxy, but first, there was still a war to finish, and the humans were about to show the Vorthak why Earth's children were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The Overmind's response came in the form of the largest war fleet in galactic history. 3,000 bioships emerged from Vorthak space, moving in perfect formation toward the Confederation capital system. But something was different about this fleet. The ships were larger than before, covered in thicker armor, and equipped with weapons designed specifically to kill humans. Fleet Admiral Juan Bei stood on the bridge of her flagship, the U.S. Defiance watching the approaching armada. She was the overall commander of human forces, a woman who had fought in more battles than she cared to count. This would be her greatest test. "All stations report ready, Admiral," announced her communications officer. Ji-Wan nodded and opened the fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Bay to all ships, human and Confederation alike. Today we fight not just for our survival, but for the right of peaceful species to exist in this galaxy. The enemy outnumbers us 3-1, but they have never faced united human and alien forces working together." In the depths of space, Captain Ji-Ho Kim prepared his ship for what might be his final battle. The Iron Thunder had been his home for years now, and its crew had become his family. Around him, both human and alien officers worked at their stations with calm professionalism. "Captain," reported Commander Hyun Lee, "long-range sensors show the Vorthak are using some kind of new formation. They're keeping their largest ships in the center, protected by smaller vessels." "They've learned from our previous attacks," Ji-Ho observed. "They're protecting their command ships. That means we'll have to fight through their entire fleet to reach the important targets." Meanwhile, on the planet's surface below, Ambassador Seok Han was coordinating the evacuation of civilian populations. Despite the desperate situation, he maintained the calm dignity that had made him an effective diplomat. "The shelters can hold 10 million people," he reported to the Emergency Council. "The rest will have to be evacuated to other systems." "But where can they go?" asked Ambassador Thailand. "The Vorthak control most of the galaxy now." "Then we make sure they don't control it much longer," Seok replied firmly. As the two fleets closed on each other, the Overmind issued its own communication. Unlike the human simple message, this one was complex and filled with the arrogance of a species that had never truly been defeated. "Deathworld creatures," the message began. "You have shown impressive violence, but violence alone cannot defeat the perfect order of the hive. We have adapted to your crude weapons. We have learned your tactics. Now you will learn why the Vorthak Empire has conquered 1,000 species." The battle began when the Vorthak opened fire from maximum range. Their new bioweapons created clouds of toxic gas and swarms of living missiles that sought out human ships specifically. But the humans had been preparing for this. "Activate the new point defense systems," ordered Admiral Bay. "Let's see how well those biomissiles handle concentrated laser fire." The improved human defenses, developed with help from Confederation scientists, proved effective against the bioweapons. Laser turrets tracked and destroyed the living missiles before they could reach their targets. Chemical scrubbers neutralized the toxic gases, but the Vorthak had more surprises. Their largest ships began launching what looked like giant seeds into space. The seeds grew rapidly, becoming mobile biostations that served as forward bases for smaller attack craft. Captain Nari Yoon, commanding the hybrid ship UCS Harmony, found herself facing one of these biostations. "It's like fighting a planet that can move," she reported. "Our kinetic weapons are effective, but it's regenerating damage faster than we can cause it." "Then we stop playing fair," Admiral Bay replied grimly. She opened a channel to her most dangerous ships. "All nuclear-armed vessels prepare planet-killer warheads. If they want to play with living planets, we'll show them how Earth deals with planets." The nuclear bombardment that followed lit up space like a miniature star. The biostation, despite its ability to regenerate, could not survive weapons designed to crack planets. It died in a ball of fire that could be seen from the surface below, but the victory came at a cost. The humans had revealed their most powerful weapons, and the Vorthak adapted quickly. Their remaining biostations began spreading out, making nuclear strikes less effective. The battle continued for hours, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. The Vorthak had superior numbers, but the humans had superior weapons and tactics. The Confederation forces, fighting alongside their human allies, showed courage they had never displayed before. Then something unexpected happened. Colonel Minho Kang, leading a desperate boarding action on a Vorthak command ship, discovered something in the alien databases that changed everything. "Admiral," he reported over encrypted communication, "you need to see this. The Vorthak aren't just running from something. They're running from the species that created the summoning chambers." The data he transmitted showed the true history of the ancient Xerion civilization. They had not been peaceful builders of temples. They had been warrior philosophers who had conquered half the galaxy before disappearing into dark space. The summoning chambers were not calls for help. They were tests. Tests for what? Admiral Bay demanded. To find species worthy of fighting alongside them against something worse, Minho replied. Something called the Devourers. And according to this data, the Devourers are almost here. The revelation changed the entire nature of the battle. The humans were not just fighting to save the Confederation. They were fighting to prove that the galaxy had species capable of standing against the ultimate threat. Admiral Bay made a decision that would echo through history. Instead of trying to destroy the Vorthak fleet, she opened direct communication with the Overmind itself. Overmind, she said, her voice carrying across space to reach the alien intelligence. We know about the Devourers. We know why you've been conquering worlds. Stop this useless fighting and help us prepare for the real enemy. The response came not in words but in actions. The Vorthak fleet suddenly stopped firing. For long minutes, space was silent except for the hum of engines and the whisper of cosmic radiation. Finally, the Overmind spoke. Deathworld creatures, you fight well, but the Devourers consume entire galaxies. What makes you think any species can stand against them? Because, Admiral Bay replied, we're not just one species anymore. We're an alliance. Humans, Confederation races, and now Vorthak, each bringing different strengths to the fight. What followed was the strangest negotiation in galactic history. Two fleets that had been trying to destroy each other suddenly found themselves discussing alliance against a threat that neither could face alone. Elder Cathera, the ancient Xerion who had helped create the summoning ritual, provided the final piece of the puzzle. The test was never about finding guardian spirits, and the old alien explained. It was about finding species that could unite the galaxy against the darkness between stars. The peace treaty was signed aboard the UCS Harmony, with representatives from all three major powers. The humans would provide military leadership and weapons technology. The Confederation would provide scientific knowledge and resources. The Vorthak would provide their biotechnology and knowledge of the Devourers. Captain Jiho Kim, who had started this war as a confused patrol commander, found himself appointed as the first ambassador to the Galactic Defense Alliance. 3 months ago, I was just trying to get home to Earth, he said during the ceremony. Now I'm helping to save the galaxy. Home is wherever you're needed most, replied Dr. Choi, who had become the Alliance's chief cultural liaison. And right now, the galaxy needs you here. The transformation that followed was remarkable. Vorthak bioships were retrofitted with human weapons. Human vessels were enhanced with Confederation technology. New hybrid designs combined the best of all three civilizations. Young beings from all species served together on mixed crews, learning from each other and developing new ways of thinking about warfare and cooperation. The cultural barriers that had seemed impossible to cross were overcome by the simple necessity of survival. Admiral Soman Park established the Alliance Defense Academy on a neutral world, where the next generation of officers would learn to fight as a unified force. The Academy's motto, suggested by a young Vorthak drone who had learned to think independently, was simple: unity through strength, strength through unity. But even as the Alliance grew stronger, deep space sensors detected the approaching threat. The Devourers were still years away, but their influence was already being felt. Stars were going dark at the edge of the galaxy. Entire systems were simply vanishing from space. We have time to prepare, Fleet Admiral Bay announced to the Alliance Council, but not much time. The Devourers are everything the Vorthak said they were and worse. They don't just conquer worlds. They consume reality itself. The final scene of this chapter in galactic history took place in the same chamber where Dr. Keela Voss had performed the summoning ritual. But now the chamber was no longer ancient and empty. It had been converted into the Alliance High Command, where beings from dozens of species worked together to plan the ultimate defense. The ancient Xerions knew this day would come, Elder Cathera said, as he watched the busy activity around him. They prepared the galaxy as best they could, then went to fight the Devourers in dark space. Ambassador Thylan Moore stood at the center of the Emergency Council chamber, his blue skin pale with fear. The holographic display above showed red dots spreading across the galaxy like a deadly disease. Each red dot was a world consumed by the Vorthak Empire. Each dot had once been home to billions of living beings. We have lost another 12 systems in the past week, Thylan said to the gathered representatives. His voice shook despite his efforts to stay calm. The Vorthak are moving faster than ever before. Our energy weapons cannot pierce their bioarmor. Our shields cannot stop their planet-eating ships. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives from 200 different species looked at each other with the same expression of hopelessness. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had wings or multiple eyes. But fear looked the same on every face. Dr. Keela Voss, a tall woman from the Centaurian colonies, stepped forward. Her silver hair caught the light from the hologram as she spoke. There might be another way, she said quietly. Something we found on Xerion. Thylan's large eyes widened. The ruins? But those are thousands of years old. How could ancient technology help us now? Keela activated her datapad. New images appeared in the air above them. Strange symbols covered the walls of an underground chamber. Crystals grew from the ceiling like frozen tears. In the center stood a circular platform covered in more symbols. We call it the summoning chamber, Keela explained. The translation is not perfect, but we understand the basic idea. When faced with complete destruction, the ancient Xerians could call for help from beyond their world. A representative with 4 arms and green scales leaned forward. Call for help from where? From whom? The texts speak of guardian spirits, Keela said. Beings of great power who would come to defend against threats that could not be defeated by normal means. The ritual was only used when extinction was certain. Thylan looked around the chamber. And you believe this could work? That these guardian spirits still exist? I believe we have no other choice, Keela replied. The Vorthak will reach our core worlds in 3 months. Maybe less. Every weapon we have tried has failed. Every defense has been broken. If there is even a small chance that this ritual could save us, we must try it. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Many representatives worried about what kind of beings they might summon. Others questioned whether ancient magic could work in their age of science and technology. But as more reports arrived of Vorthak victories, the choice became clear. The vote was close, but the decision was made. They would attempt the summoning ritual. 2 weeks later, Keela stood in the actual summoning chamber on Xerion. The journey to the dead world had been dangerous. Vorthak scouts were everywhere looking for new targets, but somehow their small science ship had made it through. The chamber was exactly as she had seen in the recordings, but being there in person was different. The air felt heavy with old power. The crystals hummed with a sound she felt in her bones rather than heard with her ears. The symbols on the walls seemed to move when she was not looking directly at them. Are you certain about this? Asked her assistant, a young Alterian named Vex. What if we summon something worse than the Vorthak? Keela placed her hands on the central platform. Then at least we will have tried, she said. Begin the power transfer. The crystals began to glow. Energy flowed through the symbols on the walls and floor. The platform under Keela's hands grew warm, then hot. The humming sound grew louder until it filled the entire chamber. Keela spoke the ancient words as best she could. Her pronunciation was probably wrong, but she hoped the meaning would come through. We call to you, guardian spirits. We face extinction. Our people die. Our worlds burn. Come to us, protect us. Save us from the darkness that devours everything. The crystals blazed with light. Energy shot up from the platform and tore a hole in space itself. The hole grew larger and larger until it filled the entire chamber. Through it, Keela could see stars and darkness and something else moving in the void. Then the ritual was complete. The light faded. The hole in space closed. The chamber fell silent. Keela looked around, confused. Did it work? I don't see any guardian spirits. Her communication device suddenly came alive with panicked voices from across the galaxy. Unknown contacts appearing in Sector 7. Massive energy signatures detected. Huge ships coming out of nowhere. Meanwhile, in space above the planet Althos Prime, reality tore open like paper. From the tear emerged a massive gray ship covered in weapons. It was followed by another ship, then another. Soon, dozens of warships hung in space where nothing had been before. On the bridge of the lead ship, Captain Jiho Kim stared at his instruments in confusion. Navigation, where are we? He asked. Unknown, sir, came the reply. This isn't any star system in our database. The stars are all wrong. Communications are picking up transmissions in multiple unknown languages, reported another officer. Some kind of emergency broadcast, Jiho rubbed his forehead. One moment his fleet had been on routine patrol near Earth. The next, they were pulled through what felt like a cosmic whirlpool and deposited in strange space. Any sign of hostiles? No, sir, but we're detecting thousands of ships throughout this system. Most appear to be civilian vessels fleeing from something. Before Jiho could respond, a new contact appeared on the sensors. It was huge, easily 10 times the size of his heaviest battleship. The ship was organic-looking, covered in what appeared to be chitinous armor. It moved through space like a living thing. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "that ship is firing on the civilian vessels. Energy weapons of some kind." Jiho watched on the main screen as bright beams lanced out from the alien ship, striking a fleeing transport. The transport's shields flared and died. The ship itself began to break apart, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. "All ships," Jiho announced over the fleet communication channel, "weapons free. Engage hostile contact." The human warships opened fire, but instead of energy beams, they launched solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Kinetic rounds and missiles streaked across space and slammed into the alien ship's bioarmor. The armor, which had easily deflected energy weapons, cracked and split under the physical impact. The alien ship shuddered and began to retreat, but it was too late. Human weapons systems, designed for war against other humans, proved devastatingly effective against technology that had never faced kinetic weapons before. As the alien ship exploded in a ball of fire, Captain Jiho Kim realized that somehow his fleet had become involved in someone else's war. He had no idea that across the galaxy, desperate alien races were calling him and his ship's guardian spirits, sent by ancient powers to save them from extinction. The war was about to change in ways no one could imagine.